Alright, good evening everyone, and Slavo Ukraini. I really hope we don't have audio problems this time. If you hear clicking and popping, let me know, because I decided to play a medieval again because we had good luck with that last time. Hello, Nat Potato, the expanded NATO. So anyway, before we talk about the events of the past few days, just want to give you a look at how beautiful the level design is in this game. This particular chapter, episode of it, really gives you an impression. Hi, Joseph. How's it going? Yeah, take a look at this. This is, supposed to be kind of like a late 90s style graphics, basically, but it's beautiful. It's going to get really interesting as we go on. Oh, there's a secret. We want that. This will actually come in handy. People have told me about Hayden, yeah. I'll check that out. Bring my volume down a little bit. In this game, I think the world model of the weapon is a sprite. They're all sprites. This is 3D. I'm in the States. If anybody's wondering if I'm in Ukraine, no, I'm not currently there. With any luck, I will be there soon. In a few weeks. Of course, I probably won't be streaming for a bit, but we'll see. Anyone hearing popping on the audio? How's the audio doing this time? Let's do slow mode now. Nice. Oh, audio's good. Okay, that's really good to know. So, this tells me several things. First of all, we know that this game doesn't seem to have a problem with the audio, so that's kind of good, but it means it might have trouble with other games. The other thing, good for you, Joseph. If you want to put a link to that in there, if it'll let you put the link in there, by all means do that. Of course, if you want to donate to Together We're Ukraine, that of course you should see that donate button on this page. We got about nearly $400 on that so far. So yeah, so we know this works audio-wise. That's kind of good. What is bad is the possibility that, like I said, I might not be able to play games like Blood and Far Cry and stuff like that, and that kind of pisses me off. Although I did tweak one thing, which I suspect could help with the audio problems next time. I hope it's just not something with these games. Because it's weird, because this has more, this needs more resources than Blood. But Blood, as we saw, had big audio problems. Far Cry 6, obviously a lot more resources than this, it had problems. But then you have, what is it, the other one that worked well, Insurgency Sandstorm. That's like Unreal 4 engine or something like that. And again, audio fine. So I don't know what it is. It's just probably like the particular way these games render their sound or something like that. I'm familiar with Repin's work. Yeah, did a lot of the. I guess is it fall under romanticism maybe? Not really an art expert. I can recognize Art Nouveau, Art Deco. That's about it. Okay, we got a nice saber weapon here. Yeah, I heard about that, but I actually have most of those games on there. At least it looks like they're games I already have. Yeah, so here's the big news this weekend. In one day, and this is confirmed, in one day, something like 10 Russian Air Force aircraft were downed. Attack helicopters, ground attack aircraft, fighter bombers, 10 in one day. This is like, as one friend said on Twitter, this is basically like the worst Air Force loss since the 1980s. And yeah, most of this is done, or like a good portion of this was done with manpads, shoulder-launched surface-to-air missiles. Yeah, there was a Su-34, which, all these airplanes, they have numbers on the side, obviously, to identify them. And that Su-34 had been identified in Syria and excuse me, Khmeimim Air Base. And it had showed up on Russian TV because Russian state media, when they went into Syria, they used to, for the first couple of years, they were putting a lot of stuff on TV about the Air Force and everything. So the plane was spotted in Syria. The pilot was shown in a picture meeting with Putin and I think Bashar al-Assad. And so now he's captured and the plane is in wreckage. So justice, yeah. That's just one of the planes that was downed. Some of you probably saw the Mi-24 or possibly Mi-35 attack helicopter, which basically got a surface-to-air missile right in its face. That was like something straight out of the 1980s. Yeah. See what's happening. So this is the explanation from the experts, and you got to take this with a grain of salt. But what they said is that basically they are low on precision-guided ammunition, which, by the way, thanks to a lot of these sanctions, they're going to have trouble replacing. And so what's happening, basically, is they need to fly lower so that they can make more accurate attacks with basically dumb weapons. And so, sorry about that, I got distracted by the question there, but yeah, so they're not using their precision-guided weapons, and they're flying lower. That makes them vulnerable to more surface-to-air missiles. Besides that, yeah, someone pointed out, VDV had a very bad day. Actually, there was also a armored regiment, or maybe it was just a motor rifle regiment, a battalion probably, which was severely damaged near Kharkiv. There was like a counterattack. And then, yeah, the VDV down by Mykolaiv met with a very bad day. They lost a bunch of their BMD vehicles and a bunch of their people. Some people thought that... Oops, I don't want to go down here yet. Yes. Damn it. I want to kill those guys. I'll take them out just like the VDV. Oh, I just remembered. I'm sorry. I got to remember, you got to be careful about saying mean things about the VDV. Twitter will get you. Maybe YouTube protects them too. Yeah, a question about the armament from China. So, for one thing, China doesn't produce the kind of electronics that they need for, or at least not in large numbers, the electronics that they need to replace some of this stuff. Besides that, China does not seem to be super enthusiastic about helping Russia, because they need access to the dollar system. And we've seen evidence that some banks are basically quietly complying with the sanctions. They won't make a big deal of it, but they'll do it. And in the end, that's what matters. So, yeah, Taiwan mainly. Taiwan, but also they were getting some sophisticated stuff from Germany. And that's another thing. Commercial aviation, we've talked about how that's pretty much screwed in Russia now. Like recently, Putin was bragging about the MC, I think 21. I believe that's the Sukhoi Superjet, and I think they have like 5 of these things. But the problem is that even if they had more of them, they're not going to be able to build more, at least not to the same specs that they were building them, because they use Pratt & Whitney engines. And I bet you they probably use some electronics from some Western countries too. Yeah, I mean, someone brought up the winter war, and it's like, yeah, you always have to be cautious about that, because usually they regroup and they learn, right? But the problem is that they don't have the kind of, like, I want to say, endless resources that the Soviet Union did to replace losses and stuff like that. They don't have the social mobilization capability, I would say. There we go. Let's launch some planets with them. Oh, shit. This is not Earth, it's some other inhabited planet. Nice. Okay. So, yeah, this did not. So basically, big miscalculation on their point. Definitely paper tiger, and like I said, they will use the nuclear blackmail and stuff like that, but I mean, like I said, it remains what to be seen. I've said always, be cautious. I have very cautious optimism because things could get a lot worse. We're talking about a country that's basically, I'm sorry, but is run by very thuggish, psychopathic individuals. Okay, I don't recommend anyone listen to this, and I can't remember how to navigate back to it on Twitter, but there was a recording today. About 3,000 Russians across the country were arrested for taking part in unsanctioned rallies. Okay, and there was an interrogation of a young woman who basically did not want to speak. In Russia, there is something akin to our Fifth Amendment in the States, where you don't have to answer questions. Now, that's in the Russian Constitution, and it is, I want to say, it's in theory, right? Like most things in the Russian Constitution. But she was trying to evoke her, basically, her Fifth Amendment rights, right? And you can see that the policeman just openly threatens her, and he openly threatens her with, like, physical harm, okay? And you can hear him, it really sounds like he is hitting her as well. And I have read the testimony of people who were arrested at rallies as far back as, I think it was 2008, okay? And at 2008, yeah, that's Medvedev time, right? That's the boom was still kind of going on. I mean, the economic crisis was starting to hit, but I think this was before it really hit in earnest. And actually, yeah, I believe the protest that was being described to me took place in 2007 anyway. So the point is that this girl, I believe she was underage at the time, talked about what the policeman threatened her with, and I'm not going to say it on here, but you can just kind of imagine. And this is the foundation of that state, okay? It is just like a gangster state, and these police, FSB guys, they are basically like the NKVD. They're basically psychopaths, and they're guys, like the author Arkady Babchenko once said that there's tons of these people here, and they will go and torture. They'll torture suspects that they framed, and then they'll go home to their wife and kids and just act, just eat their dinner and act like it's a normal day. To be honest, I assume many of them engage in domestic violence as well, but those people are out there, and and I couldn't keep listening to that what do you call it, interrogation, just because, I mean, once you heard what the guy said, I was just like, nah, like, no more of this. And it does, but it just, it highlights, first of all, it highlights the brutality of the Russian regime, but also it drives home why Ukrainians are fighting and why they fought and sacrificed to avoid this kind of system. I'm talking going back to 2014. They fought to. Someone asked about domestic violence. Yeah, it's at most it is an administrative punishment. Maybe like you pay a fine or something like that. I can't remember because they decriminalized it, but then they didn't recriminalize it, but they modified it in some case, mainly because they started to understand like how many women get killed in their country. But one of the things about domestic violence is that usually there's no point in calling the police. Okay, like even before it's decriminalized, if you call the police usually just say, well, this is a family matter, and that is the view of some high up Russian officials, that if you beat your wife, you beat your kids, it's a family matter, and they're the country of traditional family values, and apparently traditional family values apparently includes beating your wife and kids. Like, that's something they actually believe. So, yeah, getting back to what I was saying, Ukraine, since 2014, is fighting against having that system there. And that's why I was very angry just before the invasion. Some of the leftists, and just before the invasion and when the invasion started, some of the sort of tanky leftists were basically saying things like giving more weapons is just going to just going to cause more violence and more people will die, and you're cheering on this resistance and telling them to resist, but you're not going to fight it, and more people are going to die if they're resisting. So, in other words, like, just surrender, right? Just surrender. And you're welcome, Charlie. So the thing is, I wrote a thread about this before I got thrown in Twitter jail. I said, if you tell them just surrender, understand that the Russians aren't going to say, "Oh, good, you surrendered, and for that reason we are going to basically leave you alone, and we're just trying to demilitarize the country or whatever." No, what they're going to do in any place where they have real control is the first thing they're going to do is hunt down the journalists and the activists and the intellectuals, and they've already done this on a limited basis. We've seen in, I believe it was Kherson, where they've seen some police apparently going around and taking some people off the street. Now, what we also see is that they don't have strong control over Kherson, and the citizens are really revolting a lot. It's quite impressive to see because they're unarmed, but they're doing it. And the reason I believe this is succeeding is because, first of all, the people are reacting very quickly. They got out in the streets, they made it very clear they're not happy about any of this. And the Russians haven't established enough control because they really don't have enough forces for that. They need, you got to remember that some of the forces they sent into Ukraine are like OMON and basically riot cops, okay? And they they don't have enough military forces there. A lot of the guys they have there are conscripts. They are not combat units. And as we see, they're really spending their combat units pretty quickly, like the VDV and stuff like that. So yeah, they don't have that full control, but I guarantee you they've probably disappeared at least a few people. We'll probably find out about that later. If they establish control, if they did what everybody thought they were going to do, when all these people were saying don't tell them to fight, they should just surrender so it'll end as soon as possible. If they had done that, and let's say the Russian army triumphantly marched into Kyiv within the first 48 hours like it was predicted by all these experts, if that had happened, I guarantee you what you would see is basically like a mass purge, okay? Lots of, like I said, journalists, queer activists, anything like human rights activists, stuff like that. Authors, okay, they will be hunted down, okay, because this is what Russia's trying to do, really, is eliminate Ukrainianness. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean ethnically Ukrainian anymore. It just means basically believing Ukraine should be an independent country and being a part of that civic nation, right? Yeah, no, tankies do want these people dead, but you have some leftists out there who basically, they're not quite tankies, but, they're still like the Chomsky-eyed America bad type, progressives, whatever you want to call them. And they don't want to flat out root for Russia. They're always like, oh, we don't support Putin. But at the same time, they don't really view Ukrainians or Syrians or Venezuelans or Uyghurs as full people. Okay, so left populists. I'm sorry, I should keep using that. Yeah, Kyle Kalinske. Unfortunately, he's usually funny in other cases. I'm talking about Ken Klippenstein. I'm sorry. Sometimes he's very funny, but he can say some dumb shit on certain issues. Should they recapture Donbass? Definitely, eventually. But what I'm hoping for is some kind of mutiny among the proxies that Russia's using there, because first of all, they already have weapons, and I'm hoping that a sufficient humiliation of the Russian army and Russia in general, coupled with the sanctions, might cause some of the proxies there to rethink their position. In which case, yeah, one DPR, it was a guy who took over for Motorola. He got killed. So, yeah, hey Ryan. Yeah, one thing is it seems that the DPR, let's say DNR, LNR people are not really making that much progress, and I think it's because they're up against. Well, they're making progress down there by the Azov Sea, right towards Mariupol, but they don't seem to be doing too well on the rest of the front, and I suspect that's because a lot of the units they're facing are highly experienced. And God, there's so many things there. Yeah, Belarus, that's another wild card. What happens if there's a coup there, and now Putin has to turn his attention to that, right? And let's see, a lot of questions here. Shoigu, I don't know, man. Shoigu, Sergei Shoigu, the Russian Minister of Defense, he slid into my DMs earlier today and was like, "Hey, do you think I should coup Putin? I really have been thinking about that a lot lately." And I said, I don't know why you're DMing me, Sergei Shoigu, Minister of Defense of Russia. It seems like you probably get in trouble for saying something like that. So, now, I'm joking, but if you follow me on Twitter, there's this thing going around, utterly unsubstantiated, but it says that Putin, I think, suspects the Defense Minister Shoigu of plotting a coup, and that he might have him arrested and charged with treason. And no, I don't think Russia will invade Moldova, not in the near future. But yeah, so Shoigu is supposed to be arrested. Now, people are saying this is like poorly substantiated by someone who's not even a journalist. And I agree in principle, but I'm like, if this got back to Putin, he's so paranoid, he probably would bump off Shoigu, and then that would shake things up. So I'm just gonna, it's like the ghost of Kiev, right? I'm gonna be the Chad Shoigu coup believer, and I'm gonna promote that in hopes that this somehow gets back to them. Like Shoigu, that's what we'll start calling him. That's his name. Other questions. Worst case scenario about how long this lasts. I could see it lasting a few years, but what I'm hearing right now, because Putin doesn't really have an off ramp. Okay, he can't really back down, at least not yet. But so here's the problem I'm seeing for Putin sustaining the war is that a lot of people are saying he's basically out of operational reserves. He'd have to have a long pause, and again, he'd have units kind of stranded there. He'd have units kind of just stranded there, potentially vulnerable to attack, while they refit. And again, here's another thing: Russia would probably have to go with some kind of like mobilization or full mobilization. I don't see that panning out. People aren't going to be lining up at the local voinekomat to go join the Russian army. Not after this. They're going to know something's wrong when Putin pulls that on them. Yeah, there basically a lot of troops in that vaunted convoy are essentially stranded. They have to run. They run out of fuel because they have to idle their engines to keep warm. And it's kind of surprised because I was surprised because I lived in Russia and saw the equipment they have, and I kind of assumed that they would be sort of prepared to operate in winter because it's Russia. Apparently not. What else do we have? I don't know if I told the story already, but a friend of mine who's a reporter in Ukraine, he's there now. He has been in a viral photo. He was identified as the ghost of Kiev because there's a picture of him from 2016 where he was next to a MiG-29 on a runway, but I guess it was cold and he was wearing a balaclava. So people are saying this is the ghost of Kiev about to get in his plane. Nice Antietam reference, David. Spotted that. Do a fall here. Is that water? We do have to go down there, don't we? Oh, we have to go down there. I hate these things because they jump in your face. Need to get soul mode here. Yeah, so I'm trying to answer as much as possible. Yeah, I can see this. I can see Putin trying to cause a stalemate while he regroups. But that's another thing with the sanctions and everything. It's harder for him to replace losses, especially losses in anything sophisticated. So after this, it's just feed in more. Basically, he's going to have to feed in more obsolete old equipment, and it's going to arrive piecemeal. And we already see that happening. There was a train spotted where they have basically they've dragooned a bunch of civilian vehicles from Russia. We're talking dump trucks, but also like buses, like mini buses. And it's just like, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? Are you going to like drive your soldiers into Kyiv in one of these yellow mini buses? You know, I mean, I don't know what the plan is here, but it's not looking good. Let's see, what else do we have here? Opposition parties in Russia are still pretty much cowed, although in the last election, the Communist Party started to get a little bit ornery, we'll see. And they actually faced a wave of arrests. They were complaining about it was the Duma elections. They were complaining that they were fraudulent, as always. And they had pretty good grounds to say so. So there was a bit of a crackdown on the Communist Party there. I do think that, yes, when Putin is truly vulnerable, you are going to see opposition parties try to basically, I would say, like Pinocchio reference, become real boys, right? Become real opposition parties. I think they will do that because these parties, you got to remember, there was a time when they were legit. Some were legit opposition parties, regardless of how horrible their beliefs were. And so because they were real opposition parties, they do understand, I think they still understand, like, how to be a party, and they can constitute some alternative source of power. You know what I mean? It's like you have the foundation laid to carry on politics, is what I'm saying. Now, maybe they don't anymore, because one thing about the State Duma is that, you know, a lot of these seats, they're held by celebrities and you know, athletes and stuff like this, and it's just kind of a joke. I think Jeff Monson, the MMA fighter who claims to be an anarchist while supporting a far-right imperialist project, I believe that he won, not in the Duma, but like a municipal election. And it was in, I want to say Krasnogorsk. It's, yeah, the MiG-29 thing is a bit disappointing. We keep seeing like back and forth on this, so we'll just have to see what goes on. Yes, this next level is going to get really crazy. This whole episode is full of like optical illusions and stuff. Just drive you insane. All right. Navalny's in Russia, in prison. I'm surprised he's still alive. Yeah, I think what'll happen is if the U.S. will offer to replace Poland's MiGs, only then will they agree to send them out. Yeah, aircraft would be good because that just means hitting more of their stranded trucks, which just hurts them more and more. You know, that's the thing about war, is that it's like a cumulative effect. You know what I mean? It's like right now they're running out of fuel and they're having logistical problems, and their trucks are getting hit and everything, and they can't really, you know, they're not replacing them very well. And the more trucks get hit, the worse it gets for the fighting troops, and the worse it gets for the fighting troops, and there's more demoralization and more, you know, they got to bring up replacements, and then that needs fuel, and yeah, so basically things just keep going wronger and wronger. Okay, if that's even a word. Yeah, it would be nice. Okay, I realize at this point that like Patriot batteries are not in the works, right? But if we could perhaps get a system from another country. I saw one system, I'm not too familiar with it, but it's from Norway. If anyone remembers what it's called like Norsam or something like that. And it, you know, something like that. It's sophisticated, not exactly like, I don't think it's like super long range, but it's not gonna stack up to like a Patriot, right? But just something to give them more long range surface to air missile and more long range air defense. I mean, that would be excellent. You know, it doesn't have to be a Patriot. Yeah, the West, it depends on what you call, let me see. Okay, first of all, Shoigu Navalny coup, I like that. Now, first of all, Iron Dome, I wouldn't really put much faith in Iron Dome in the first place, because Iron Dome is not designed to deal with the kind of attacks that Ukraine is, that the Ukraine, is dealing with. So that probably wouldn't do much. Now, as for someone asked about the western part of the country, if you consider Vinnytsia to be west, Nasams, thank you. Somebody point out the name of that system. Yeah, but so if you consider Vinnytsia to be west, the airport there got severely hit recently, and I have friends who escaped from Kiev to Vinnytsia, so you're not out of the frying pan there. Ternopil too is also a target. Let's see. Okay, about Russia, logistical support. Well, what I know in general about their problems is just what they call like raspizjaistvo and corruption. And we heard stories before this started that some of these Russian soldiers stationed in Belarus had been selling gas to locals, right? And so it's problems like that, right? But even before this, there's an article on War on the Rocks, and I wish I could tell you off the top of my head who the author was, because this kind of doesn't help anybody now, but they were pointing out how Russia moves stuff very efficiently by rail, but then when they leave their railheads, they need trucks. And the thing is, for them to operate optimally the way they want to, which is massed artillery and all this, massed rocket artillery too, in order to do that, you need a lot of logistics. You need the shells and the rockets. Because think about this, 1 grad salvo, right? If you fire all 40 barrels, that's 40 rockets at a time, okay? In Ukraine, they call that a paket. Like 1 paket is like a full load. That's what I was told by a colonel in Avdiivka. That's a full load of Grad rockets, BM-21 Grad, right? Now, think about that. 40 rockets, they are, off the top of my head, 122 millimeters each. Okay, that's their diameter, obviously. And they're quite long, too. They're not like the BM-13 rockets of World War II, which were short. I mean, you can see how long they are. And so that means that, 40 rockets, they're going to, that would take up significant space, like in a truck or something like that. I can't imagine, I don't think you could fit 2 full, like, packets, we'll say, into like the standard Russian ZIL or Ural or whatever. Trump should visit Ukraine. He should visit Kharkiv, or maybe he should. Yeah, that would be good. Visit Kharkiv or Mariupol, and definitely Trump should go there. Very safe place. I mean, they won't shoot at Trump. They love him, so they love him. The Russians love him, so he'll go there and he'll make peace. Just send him to Mariupol. So, yeah. As I was saying, so they had, this War on the Rocks article points out how they were basically low on trucks to begin with, right? And this just highlights what seems to be the most likely explanation for a lot of this, is that they never thought this was going to last more than a few days. They really thought that they would basically like shock and all. They thought that Ukrainians were tired of war, that all it would take is for them to remind Ukraine of what they can do and fire some cruise missiles and be seen coming across the border, and the tanks will be, and then take that airport with the VDV, and then it'll be over, right? Because there's all these, because the Ukrainians are just brainwashed by America and Europe. And then a small minority of the ones leading them around are the Banderites, right? And they believe that all they got to do is strike at them really hard, and the Banderites will run away, and the rest of the Ukrainians will snap out of it, and they'll realize that, oh, we're actually really Russians, and we just forgot, and that was what was supposed to happen, right? Maybe they did literally think. I don't think that they really. I don't think they planned to put Yanukovych back in power. They probably had someone else in mind. They might have thought that the Oppo Bloc people would have supported this, right? Which apparently they haven't. And, yes, you are a true Banderite. Antonio Banderas is proud of you. So that seems to be the best working theory right now, is that he thought that it would just hit them, everyone would get scared, or and suddenly everybody would be, all the pro-Russian people would come out. Thanks, Anonymous, for a donation. All the pro-Russian people would come out, and they put in a puppet basically, and the West would not have. This is another thing. I think they thought that there would be some sanctions, but the idea was to react, or the idea was to create facts on the ground faster than the West could put any more sanctions on them, and faster than the West could apply any hard sanctions. And then what they could say is like, well, it's a done deal, right? And they could also say like, oh, Ukraine is an independent country. Look, it has own president, and you can't say we're occupying it. And basically, he would probably he probably figured they would get a few more sanctions levied before the West just accepts it, right? And that didn't happen, and now he is in a very bad situation. And I also think he never thought they were going to go that far with the sanctions. I think there had been too much complacency from the West for a long time, and he was hoping that would still go on. Other questions. Yes, Putin did hate and does hate the Ukrainian SSR. He said this in his hour-long speech. Putin has this theory that Russia created Ukraine, right? Because Russia conquered this territory from the Ottomans, or conquered this territory from the Poles. And what he doesn't understand is that, first of all, Russian armies have had and used and relied on Ukrainians for a long time. And that includes like the Red Army especially, right? Like Ukrainians fought for that land. And actually Ukrainians, unfortunately, fought for lands that are, non-Russian in like places like Siberia or Kazakhstan, right? And so Ukrainians could easily say, well, a lot of the land you have, like areas in the Far East and stuff like that, that was given to you by Ukraine, so we're going to take it back, right? It's called Zeleny Klin. It's in Siberia. Now, a question about Steven Seagal. Yes, Steven Seagal, very deadly individual, extremely deadly, highly lethal. As far as I know, Steven Seagal has not gotten the command to take out Zelensky, the Zhido-Bandorevets. But if the command is handed down, Seagal will. I can't remember how that idiot talks. I know he whispers like this. Yeah. So I think where Steven Seagal will fail, that Chechen team was sent after Zelensky. They got killed. They didn't even have a chance to fight. They were basically, there was some kind of leak, some OPSEC problem, and they were basically just eliminated very quickly. Now Seagal, I think where Seagal is going to have problems is that, a lot of businesses in Kyiv are actually still operating, and they have a lot of good doner kebab places in Kyiv. There was a time when if you were like in the center in like right bank Kyiv, like you just couldn't find decent street doner kebab, right? Now it's like everywhere. They have lavash that is black. It's like, I can't explain it. It's like it's lavash, and it's colored like with food coloring. It's colored black, so it's black lavash. So it's like stealth, right? Ninja lavash. But anyway, so here's what I see happening is that if Seagal does go after Zelensky, he may get distracted by that, and he'll probably be caught by the territorial defense, eating, like in both hands, eating doner kebabs, because they are good. They are really good. But Steven, he can't resist something like that. Next, Roman von Ungern Sternberg. God, that is a crazy guy. Yes, I read about that wacky dude in Setting the East Ablaze by Peter Hopkirk. That was a crazy guy. He believed he was a reincarnation of Genghis Khan, and raving anti-Semite, often killed his own men. And it's a crazy ass guy. What else? Yeah, I mean, they want the Russian Empire back. You're talking about the USSR there. What they want is they want an empire, and that's it's that simple. Now, it's about the other question there. Protests meaningful? Well, there were a lot of people arrested. It's going to take a while for it to pick up. I think after a while, if enough people keep doing it they're criminalizing so much stuff in Russia that it's going to start taxing. I think it's going to start taxing the ability of the security forces security services to suppress all of it, right? And it's going to become a big burden at some point, I think. Next question. I hope more Belarusian soldiers mutiny. A full mutiny there. A coup against Lukashenko would be so great right now because Putin would be at a real loss to deal with it in the conditions right now. They criminalize what they call fakes. Now, when the Russian government says something is fake, it usually means it's actually true because it's something they did that's bad. But basically what this means is that if the government is saying that, if you see a picture of a building in Kharkiv hit by a cruise missile or something, that's done by the Azov Nazis and not the Russian military. So if you post that and say the Russian military did that, you are posting a fake about the military, and then you can be charged with 15 years. And 15 years, let me tell you, like the other extremism laws in Russia, is typically 5 years is the maximum. Okay, so 15 years for publishing something, just saying like, we did this, right? That's insane. And it's really, I think a lot of this is subtly signaling to people that the government's reaction is telling people that this war is not going well and they're being lied to. All right, let's see. I'm trying to choose these questions. What else? We talked about Belarus. About Putin losing to meme war, I just saw the other day, Putin was, just yesterday, Putin was saying that the war is going according to plan. So, guys, apparently the plan was to roll into Ukraine, get a huge convoy stuck, lose like 9,000 soldiers in the first week, lose 10 aircraft in one day, like about 800 different vehicles. Like this is the plan. Okay, so don't question it. We need something to deal with these guys. Let's see. I don't believe the dead hand system works now. Interesting thing about the dead hands system. It was located in a place in what's now Bashkortostan called Yamantal. Now, if you played Call of Duty Black Ops, there's a mission that takes place in Yamantal. But what's really cool, nobody who did the game, nobody made the game Black Ops ever looked this up. But Yamantal in Bashkort basically means evil mountain. So it's like you can't get more cartoonish than that. It's like it's Ian Fleming Bond stuff, Okay. I don't know what that guy's problem was. He's just frozen there. Let's see. Yeah, okay, about democratic government. Yeah, so obviously any democratic government that gets established in Russia is going to need to, obviously they're going to have to deal with horrible economic devastation, all thanks to Mr. Putin. It's supposed to go back up. Does it? No, that one does. Okay. Okay. This is like a puzzle. It's really annoying. It's funny for Putin to say that, to identify that way, just because they have, erased so many identities in Russia, and they continually do that. I gotta get the other one up there. Okay. Just trying to see how I'll do this. Okay, I gotta do. I need one of those to come down. Like we got to hit all of these and then get on this one. And if we do it in the right time, yeah. Ah, crap, it went down. Okay. So, if we just do it faster. Maybe we need to start from the other end, I don't know. Almost had it. Okay. Okay, you know what I need to do? I gotta wait till they all sync. Then we'll do this. Okay. And if this goes up now, come on, go up, go up, go up. Are you kidding me? Okay, at least I saved there. I think I'm hitting him in the wrong order. If I try it this way. Well, that's obviously not going to work. Well, maybe. No, because, yeah, they go down too quickly. Okay. Okay, so what we gotta do is just do everything faster. So, 1, 2, and 3. Go up, go up, go up. There we go. Okay. What the hell? Under attack. Guess we got this now. Problem with soul mode in this game is that you end up always, you don't know exactly the best time to use it, and a lot of times you end up just using it at the wrong time. Now here it's been useful. We ran into a lot of guys. Of course, we still got a bunch more guys. Thanks, Soul Man. I really appreciate that. You know, I got nervous about streaming a while back just because, first of all, to be honest, because of this whole COVID thing, I haven't had much of a social life. I'm not used to like talking to people at all, and so it's just kind of hard to sort of gather my thoughts. Not like because I'm so used to like talking to people, you know what I mean, and socializing with people. I kind of, how you say, I'm good at interacting with people across the table from me or something. But yeah, I was a bit nervous about this. Of course, we had all the audio problems and stuff like that. And then there was a time, when basically I could make a stream and almost nobody would watch it, right? It'd be about 4 people. Now that it's being monetized, people are actually watching, so it matters. So that's great too. But yeah, just to answer Victorian's question, the Death of Stalin was banned in Russia, and a funny story is that I got my tickets. This is when I was living in the U.S. and my wife was over in Moscow, and basically I got my tickets, she got her tickets, and I got to see the movie. And when she got to the theater like the day before, they basically banned the movie, and so no one could see it. And I mean, it's just insane. It's a comedy, you know what I mean? It's a comedy, and it's not very historically accurate. It's so loosely. Oh, thanks, Joseph. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all this because, I just kind of live in a sort of isolated part of the country. And when I say isolated, I mean like if you don't have a car, you don't really, and working from home and COVID and all that, like I said, you don't get to socialize a lot, and it really starts to have an effect on you after a while. Because, like I said, I find myself. Sometimes I used to say, like, I find myself when I'm not using Russian, like I have trouble speaking with people. But now, like, I feel like I'm in a situation where I have trouble speaking English. That's why sometimes a lot of times it takes me a long time to record the scripts for videos because I am talking like to a machine, and that's the most awkward thing for me. That's why I suck at leaving voicemails, because I'm always just. I can't talk to a machine. I know it's a machine. I know it's not a person listening. What else? Yes, car culture is a real problem in my part of the country. It's actually much worse in the place where I'm from, because yeah, you need a car in that city. Yeah, just my favorite scene of the Death of Stalin is the one where they're arguing over what Beria meant when he said, like, I have dirt on all of you, and they're saying, well, no, he said, like, he didn't mean me, he said all of you. You saw he did that thing with his hand, and he meant all of you. And at some point Malenkov says to him, like, well, all of you can kiss my Russian ass. That's a great scene. But I like it because it's a very British film, and I have a soft spot for British humor. I think I've mentioned that before in one of the other streams. I was just kind of musing on absurdist sketches and stuff like that. Because see, British sketch writers, British comedy writers, they understand the difference between absurd and random. And the problem we have in the States is that a lot of people mistake. What they do is they mistake random for absurdity. They can be very similar, but they're different things. The difference is very important at times. Okay, where are we going to find... I can find another gold key door. I'm going in circles here. The good thing about this game is that, you usually leave some evidence of enemies that you killed behind. And as you know, like in the old shooters, like in Doom and stuff like that, what happens is if you see bodies, you've been there. It's like a trail of breadcrumbs, right? You've been there if there's any bodies, and if you see new enemies, then you know that you are in a new place. So, okay, I kind of know where we have to go. There's a door over here. Yeah, Jason Isaacs is great in that. I particularly like the choose your dates for the dance. that was great. Okay, yeah, we opened this. That's a gold key door. And go down here. Oh, I think I know what happened. I went in that little thing there, and there's a secret, but we need to go here. No, we were here. We were definitely here. Where are we going? We open that. Maybe we need to go this. No. No, that's not a lift. Yeah, this really kind of reminds me. One thing about a lot of what you call boomer shooters now is that they had a problem with. Sometimes they could be a bit confusing. You get lost in them. A good example of this is Hexen. Hexen, that was a game where you had each level had a hub, and you had to go into these sub-levels and do different things in there. And something you do in a sub-level will affect something in the hub, which might open up another sub-level for you to go to. Or you have to go back between the different sub-levels because the something you did in one of them affects something in the other one. And there's often not much indication as to what affected what. So you just keep going back between the hub and these different levels, trying to figure out what changed when you did something, right? And yeah, it gets pretty irritating after a while. Hexen, it had some unique features, and they did a lot of interesting stuff using the Doom engine. What do you think of Gorbachev? Gorbachev, decent Pizza Hut commercial, but that's about it. Yeah, I want to say something. Yeah, the boomer shooter thing. I mean, it's been established by YouTubers who are far ahead of me in this business. You could say people like Civi11 and what's his name, G-Man Lives, one of the best reviewers out there. Both of them are great. But yeah, boomer shooters refers to Rise of the Triad and stuff like that. But I take issue with that because I think this is Gen X Erasure. No. Is Erasure? Erasure is the band. They did that song Always. But yeah, it's these games were designed by Gen Xers, and I kind of feel an affinity to Gen X because by some reckoning, I'm in the last year you can be Gen X. Others will say I'm an elderly millennial. I just feel kind of elderly in general. Oh, this is an interesting part. So check this out. Swimming sharks, that's water up there. And yes, we are going to go in that water that is upside down. So first we're going to take out the sharks. So, yeah, this applies to... They're applying it to, like, Blood and Shadow Warrior and Duke Nukem 3D. But, you know, most of the... Like I said, they were designed by Gen X people. And mostly played by, like, Gen X and elderly millennials or Xennials. I don't like that term very much, but... Do we need that? I'm not going to risk that. I'll fall if I do that. Yeah, also, I kind of deviate from a lot of the old school shooter people in the sense that I don't really have a strong love. Yeah, that's right. Because, like, about the spouse thing, Duke Nukem, like, he's not married, so, you know, he can't do the whole, like, I hate my wife. Like, and obviously Caleb from Blood, you know, he's not married to Ophelia, but he's clearly very attached to her. Very upset when she dies. Yeah, I have played Dusk. I'm not as impressed by Dusk. I like this more. But yeah, okay, so Rise of the Triad. Yeah, I have that on Steam. I'm just not that impressed by it. Like when I was young, I discovered Rise of the Triad around this time when I was kind of done with Doom, right? Like I was kind of all doomed out, and it's like, well, we need newer games, right? And Rise of the Triad was impressive for the for things like the what do you call it, like Easter eggs especially, right? There's so many Easter eggs in Rise of the Triad. And there's also things like the missile weapons were innovative, but at the end of the day, it's hard to say. I mean, like at the end of the day, it's like you're playing a game that's essentially a beefed up Wolfenstein port, right? It was intended to be a sequel to Wolfenstein 3D. And so yeah, that's why all walls are at 90-degree angles. That's why you don't have like real stairs or anything. And you get these missile weapons that you get to use, and you got to manage them because you can only hold one at a time. And then you got your infinite ammo MP40 with the worst sound. I'm sorry, the sound effects for the MP40 suck. It sounds like continuous farting. Like if you ever watch that YouTube video of the hippo fart, that's basically your MP40 in Rise of the Triad, and you just spend a lot of time pumping all these rounds into bullet spongy enemies, especially in the later episodes of the game, and it's just very repetitive, and I got bored of it pretty quickly. But there's this thing with like the old boomer shooters thing. You have to respect Rise of the Triad, like it's in there. It's like, no, I mean it's okay, but yeah. I would say the best Russian leaders were like the people in charge of the Novgorod Republic. If you're asking about that, they were probably the best they had. Look at this. This is like some 1970s prog rock, or what do you call it? Like this would be painted on the side of a 1970s era van, right? And inside they have like disco lights and 8-track player. Okay. Boris Nemtsov probably would have been a good leader. Nemtsov was a good opposition leader too. He was very much like focused on the war, and that's what got him killed. You know, that's what he was working on before before he got killed. He was working on this report about the war. And that is available now. So that's available somewhere online. It's called Putin like war, basically. Okay, here again, just marvel at the level design of this. I talked about this in I did a video review of this. It was one of my first reviews, so it's not great. But I mean, just look at this. It's beautiful, and we're gonna see later. I mean, like look. I mean, it's a little bit disorienting, really, but it's just it's amazing that you can take, because I mean these kind of graphics, they don't look realistic, right? But it really just kind of it sucks you in. You know, there's a certain like. I mean, look at that. Let's get out here and get a better view. Yeah, I think we're safe. That's incredible. The report was for the war in Donbass. That's what he was writing about. Yeah, it would be great if Novgorod Republic had beaten Moscow. My God, that like changes history. Yeah, this. You know what this does remind me of? It reminds me of a little bit of that like early CGI art that they would show you, like the type of thing in the 90s you'd have on your Trapper Keeper folder, right? And it was computer generated, and we were all like, "Wow, they used a computer." About Sheila Fitzpatrick. Yeah, I've read some of her stuff. It was good. Sarah Davies. There's an interesting book. It's called like Stalin: A New History, and it's got a collection of different authors writing different things about like the Stalin era and the nature of his rule and stuff like that. Stalin's Wars by Jeffrey Roberts is quite interesting because it shows how conciliatory Stalin got towards the West at the end of the Second World War, where he was kind of looking for any way he could preserve that Grand Alliance because he knew that his country had been weakened by the war, and he thought if he could keep them if he could keep them on the side of Britain and the U.S. long enough, he could, rebuild and recover. Of course, it didn't work out that way. So I didn't even hit him. This is my BFG weapon. It's not working. Okay. All right, we're good. Okay, yeah. Catherine the Great, not a fan. Not a fan at all because of what she did in Crimea. I will tell you this though, the horse story is absolute bullshit. So if you heard something about her and a horse, that's not true. That's just old misogyny there. Do we have a silver key yet? No, we don't have that. We are doing so much work in this just to get a silver key. Yeah, I have to say there are a few levels in this game that sort of wear out their welcome, but this is interesting to look at, Okay. Yeah, I heard about Marco Rubio. Yeah, he was. Nothing Wrong was the name of her horse. So yeah, Rubio giving away stuff on Zelensky. To be fair, I think that the background that Zelensky was he was in an office, and that office could be recognized. It was an office that had like furniture in it. One way you can recognize if you want to track somebody, I can tell you, like there have been leaders of ISIS that have been tracked by pillows that they are sitting by, right? Like they're indoors for OPSEC purposes, and they think they're fine, but they're sitting on a particular couch, and someone you can look up that pattern, right? And then you find out who sells that, and then you find out like where this particular, where they would get this if they were in Syria, for example, or in like Iraq. And so they can find that. And if you have an office that has certain furniture in it, you get ready because we're going to get attacked soon. If you have an office that has certain furniture in it, and especially if it's an office in a government building, it's probably been featured in some video or photograph before, right? Because, as you know, what the hell is that? That doesn't help anybody. So we're going to be attacked by a bunch of guys shooting planets at us, so we need to play this safe. Yeah, so as for, when you have a government office, dignitaries come there, they meet with the president, and then you can recognize what kind of furniture is in that particular office, and you can figure out what building that is. So that's a problem. Now, again, about Trump, here's the thing. A lot of Trump, MAGA people and Republicans, they still have that admiration for Russia. What they like is that the Russian propaganda is so anti-liberal, so anti-democrat, that they can't help themselves from occasionally supporting it, right? They like it too much because it's the same thing that they would say, you know what I mean? Like the whole thing about the army recruitment commercial and everything. It's exactly their politics, and they can't give that up. Trump, though, he does have a personal affinity for Putin. But I mean, recently, like, he tried to backpedal, and now he's coming up with this brilliant plan where we take F-22s and get them to bomb, get this, not like Russian targets in Ukraine, like that convoy, but use F-22s to bomb Russia. And of course, F-22s don't really carry much of an air-to-ground load, as far as I know, but it gets better. See, as you know, Donald Trump was advised, at least for a time, by Sebastian Gorka. And Sebastian Gorka is a master of the art of war. Okay, Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, Napoleon. Okay, and so one thing you must always use in war is deception. Sun Tzu would say that deception is everything. Maskirovka, as the Russians would call it. So, what Trump suggested was using Maskirovka. In this case, painting the Chinese flag on our F-22s and bombing Russia, so that Russia cannot go to war with us, because we will just say, that wasn't us, that was the Chinese. And so you see the Magyar master okay, I'm breaking down here because I've been talking so long I can't do a proper Gorka. I used to be really good at this. But yeah, so that is Trump's plan, right? Get F-22s that are not bombers, have them bomb Russia, but the Chinese flag is on them. So what can you say? It's like, hey, it's a Chinese flag. Like, if this were an American plane, you're saying this is a plane only made in the United States and not exported to other countries? Well, then why does it have a Chinese flag on it? What he'll probably do? What he'll probably do is like put this. He'll be like, I gotta put the flag of China on it, and he gets a out-of-date encyclopedia that's like pre 1971, and he ends up putting the flag of Taiwan on it, like that's what I see him doing, But I mean, it's just, that's the thing, is like, Trump has become this sort of, it's a type of identity politics, right? And there's so many Americans who just base their identity around Trump. And it's like, look, my problem with Trump is at this point, it's not even a matter of politics, it's just he's a fucking idiot. I mean, that's just it. I don't care. I mean, like, yeah, obviously, look, he is racist. He is misogynist. These are horrible qualities. But if he were not those things, and he was just everything else, he's a fucking moron. His answer, I mean, his plan sounds like something that a 9-year-old would come up with if you were just like, Timmy, we just blew up the earth. If I was like, Timmy, what do you think we should do to deal with Russia, given that they have nuclear weapons and everything? And I could see like Timmy being like, well, I think that we should bomb Russia with our fast jets, but the Russians, we don't want them to know, so we'll paint Chinese flags on them and say China did it. I mean, it's something that a little kid would say, you know what I mean? Like, and that's so much of what he says. It's like, why are we even debating? It's not even a matter of policy anymore. His policies are basically just like, fuck vulnerable people, and that's, bad enough on its own. But if he were not that, like, I'm sorry, he's just a complete, utter moron. Timmy has an excuse, okay? Yeah, no, Timmy would probably say something like Call of Duty, send in Delta Force or whatever. So, okay, give him credit for that. But, yeah, so, oh, Christ. I mean, that, like I was talking to a guy, actually, I got a chance to socialize last Friday, and I was talking to a guy, and I could see the guy is a little bit right wing. And his friend didn't seem to be that way, but this guy listens to Joe Rogan and Tim Pool. And he asked me what I think of Tim Pool. And I said, like, look, the thing about Tim Pool is, like, I can't understand, like, most people, you hear something he says and you think, this is the dumbest guy on earth. And it's like, well, not really. He's appealing to the dumbest people. Okay, that's what he's trying to do. And I told this guy, I said, like, I said he's a grifter. Like, all these people are grifters. Their job is to make you think that you're under attack from all these different forces, the woke mob, and like Tim Pool's whole shtick is like, I was a leftist, I was a socialist, but then these leftists, like, they just got crazy, and they were like, I didn't leave them, they left me, and this is a really clever tactic, right? Because, like, you take someone like Rush Limbaugh, for example, right? Like, he was a conservative, right? So it gives him a limited ability to appeal to people who are not conservatives, you know what I mean? Whereas, like, people like Tim Pool, David Rubin, even Joe Rogan, they play this whole, I'm just asking questions, man. I don't know about these leftists. They're just getting kind of out there, and yeah, and it's so transparent. It's so obvious what's going on, but it works. It's very effective because they, the impression that, oh good, we're on the same level. But yeah, I mean, the impression that, like, I'm just trying to figure stuff out like you, right? I just don't know about what's going on, and man, like, I try to understand it in this way, but some of these people are just really out there. I don't know about this, It's a really good tactic if you want to grift people, and that's what so much of this punditry is about, right? I mean, punditry, all of it, almost all of it. Oh, that guy's gone. Really helped me. The punditry is just so much about looking at the news and then finding, like, how can I extract maximum outrage out of this. And I wish I remembered, I wanted to tell this guy, there was a really good video that breaks down Tim Pool's methodology. I can't remember, it's something like brown toast or something. It's some British guy. He does a video about Tim Pool and his techniques. And I take it this is probably not a very political channel because he really doesn't get into the politics of anything. He just shows, he analyzes Tim Pool from his methodology, right? And he shows how in one episode, and this is not a really politically charged episode, this is kind of where, when he was just kind of doing the, like, hey, I was a socialist, or I'm a socialist and lefty, I don't know about all this, this is from that period, and there's a video where what he does is he talks about how apparently there's a problem with our society because men are too afraid to stand up for women in public if they get harassed, or even if they just, they get in a car accident or something. And so he reads off, like, this list of stories, right, from the news of cases where, like, a woman was in trouble and nobody stepped in to do anything about it, right? That's a really bad thing and everything. But he the way he reads it is like it's a trend, right? Like this is a change that's happening. And then what this YouTuber does is he shows how basically you look at these stories and you find out that they take place in different countries. And can we survive this? Oh yeah. Oh wow, that's nice. Very generous of you, game. Thank you for not killing me. So you find out that these took place, like, in different years in different countries, and when you put them all together and you read them off one after another, there's an impression that this is a trend, and that's something you're going to see in a lot of these, like, cancel culture stories and everything, is somebody shooting a bunch of rapid fire stories at you and trying to make you think that it's a trend and that things are changing. And if you ever read any right-wing literature, I'm talking like books by pundits, they tend to be nothing but a series of weird news stories, we'll say, stories about college students doing crazy stuff and protesting over the slightest thing or whatever, and basically just all the cultural grievance, culture war stuff, right? Like, in this university, the students did this outrageous thing, and there was an art performance here, and they did this outrageous thing. And it's just basically just getting you worked up. And then when you really look into a lot of these cases, sometimes you find they're highly distorted. Other times you find that they are just made up. That's another thing that often happens. And then other times you find out that it's like, well, yeah, it happened, but nobody cares. You know, like the common thing today is to say something like social justice warriors are outraged about whatever, and they're trying to censor this, I don't know, video game or something. But then when you look at the evidence for this, what you see is like 5 tweets from total randos on Twitter, and it's like, that's not a trend. Like, who are these people? You know what I mean? They're nobody. And I mean, there was a guy, I think it was that guy Sean, which I have a lot of problems with on some issues, but he made a good video back in 2018 about how after the Doom Eternal trailer came out, there were about 30 different videos produced on YouTube that were all about how supposedly SJWs want to cancel Doom Eternal because of these jokes, the pretty shitty jokes that were seen in the trailer for the game, right? And so what? There were about 30 different videos, all these different grifters on YouTube. You know, the YouTubers are trying to jump on the SJW outrage bandwagon, right? And the thing is, all of these videos, their source was one clickbait article. The clickbait article source was basically about 5 tweets. And then the tweets were all people saying like, wow, this looks awesome. That one joke or whatever was kind of weird, just seems kind of like old, you know, but like the game looks great, right? And this is how they work, you know? It's a business, you know? Some people turn the whole anti-SJW thing into a lucrative career, and some were not quite as good at doing that. You know, they didn't have the audience or whatever, but there's a bunch of these sort of hangers-on, you know what I mean, who try to capture the trend. Some come kind of late. Let's see, what else? Well, I mean, you talk about social justice. It's like, what does that mean exactly? You know what I mean? And in general, I think the main issue is it's a question of like human rights. You know what I mean? And and trying to correct past wrongs, you know what I mean, and that's all it is. I think there are always going to be people who want to seem morally superior to you, and so they will adopt a certain identity, and they will basically try to adopt a sort of holier than thou, I won't say like mentality, but just identity, right? And just like how we have in the States, a lot of these evangelical Christians, the Christian thing is not really about faith or belief in the teachings of the Bible or Jesus. It's really an identifier. It says, I'm Christian, I'm American, I'm Christian. It says basically, I am moral, right? And I'm one of the good guys because I'm part of this group, right? And the people, the people that we deal with, I want to say like the people that you sometimes meet on the left who just go crazy about, they go overboard with some concepts like cultural appropriation, for example. These are, first of all, they're not really that representative. I used to run in very far left circles, and I can tell you, those people, you rarely meet them, and when you do, you usually just kind of block them, and they tend to alienate everybody because they're always trying to show like how much more progressive they are, and then everyone just kind of like ignores them, right? So the idea that this is like, oh shit, yes, we did die. Where are we? Okay, yeah, we took on way too many people at the same time. you get such a conversation going, just kind of lost track of everything. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, it's kind of like the thing when people talk about, like, oh, the Dems got to be more moderate. They got to be more moderate. The radicals are, the radicals, the defund the police thing, it's going to ruin the Dems' chances. And you see that, like, most Dems are not even adopting that slogan. Quite the opposite. And they, same thing with, like, some people, a lot of these sort of red-brown leftists are always saying, like, well, we got to stop talking about id poll so much and start talking about stuff that appeals to the quote-unquote working class. And it's like, I'm sorry, but who is the Democratic candidate who has based their whole, based their campaign or based their platform on something like, I don't know, pronouns or trans issues or something like that. And right now, I'll say especially in Texas, there's a very good reason to talk about these things in politics. But I don't see a candidate. I'm just saying I don't see a candidate who has made something like trans or LGBT issues, the focus of their campaign. I have not seen this candidate, and like even the so-called squad, as they call them, whether you like them or hate them, I don't see them really, going hard on some of these what are considered like far left issues most of the time. And that's, again, that's a very small part of the party. So, yeah, most of this stuff is just people getting worked up about, people on social media being dicks. You know what I mean? Yes, and that's a very important point. You say working class in this country. When someone says, "Oh, forget about the id poll and focus on the working class," well, I'm not sure. I mean, but that's the thing. The Democrats don't pretend that. Some kind of take a position that working class must mean like rural or like factory workers in places that are mostly white. But the thing is, the working class in the U.S. has changed. We're talking a lot of like immigrants. We're talking about a lot of POC and stuff like that. And so when you say like appeal to the working class, well, that means you have to you still have to have that big tent, I would say like big tent approach, right? Because it's not a bunch of like ethnically Polish factory workers anymore, And besides, I mean, the Democrats that are actually winning elections, people like Biden is very pro-union. That's one of the biggest working class issues out there is unions, and there's been, I know, like there's been some successes, there's been some setbacks. Obviously, I haven't been able to follow the the union struggle so closely because of other things. But yeah, I mean, he's very pro-labor. And really, a lot of the reason why his agenda is stalled is just because of the way our system works. Our system is turned into something that favors a political minority because of the Senate, because of things like the courts, the Electoral College, right? And that's just a reality that Dems will have to work around. And they can only do that by basically turning out more votes and just winning in landslides. And it's not fair, but that's just the way it is. And a lot of people don't want to have the patience to deal with that. And I can understand the frustration, but this is the way the system is. And, you have to deal with reality as it is, not retreat into some kind of radicalism. Yeah, there's always going to be, that's the thing, is like, see, the Democratic Party is a big tent party, and they have to be. They have to be because, like I said, they need to, even though they represent a much larger part of the population, the way the system works, the way the system works is that it favors the political minority in this case. You know what I mean? But sharks. What I want to say about Trump and the minority vote, I think a lot of people especially in the last election, I think part of the problem was that Democrats make assumptions about specifically Latino voters. And the assumption is that they kind of lump them, they lump all these voters, especially Hispanic voters, they lump them into one category. And, okay, just let me ask a few questions. Okay, someone asked, what's a big tent? Big tent is when you have a party or movement that needs to have like kind of like a coalition of a lot of different people in it. You know what I mean? So that's the thing, is like in the Democratic Party, you got different strains. You got Bernie people, and then you got people that are, now you have like disaffected Republicans, for example, never Trumpers. So that's what we call big tent, when you have like a lot of people under this big tent. Yeah, now back to the thing is, a lot of people speculated that the Democrats sort of take the Latino votes for granted. They kind of assume that all these people care about up front is like immigration issues, for example, which is a little bit patronizing, because there are tons of Latino people in this country who are not immigrants. They're like, third generation, fourth generation. But also, like, you talk about like Latino voters, and that means you also got to be talking about like Cubans in Miami, for example, right? And they tend to historically be more Republican. And then there's also like, there's a lot of evangelicals now, and I mean, we see like around where I am, there's a lot of evangelical churches that are mostly, what do you call it, Latino. But I'm sorry to Flores. I'm sorry if you're disagreeing with me. I mean, by all means, I mean, if there's a better explanation, I definitely defer to your experience on this. But no, I mean, that was just one theory. Oh yeah, what I was saying is like, yeah, if you look at like the Southwest, right, like people go back, into the 18th century, right, like especially in the Southwest, in Florida. So the assumption that, the assumption that everybody cares, everybody in that community is going to care about immigration issues, and that's the most important thing. That was a flawed assumption, and Democrats have to learn from that. And also, again, like, there are different groups of different histories, different different experiences and things like that, and you can't lump all these diverse people into one category and just think that you can take this one-size-fits-all approach, right? And so, yeah, I think that isn't even so much a class thing. It's simply just treating a lot of people with a lot of different views as caring about one thing that you suspect that's what's important. Yeah, about the mic quality, I'm glad that I fixed it, but the problem is, what we know is that it works in this game. I did tweak one thing, but I'm not sure that that's the deciding factor. So, what it means is that it means that maybe some games that I want to play on here, I will not be able to because of the audio, and I don't like that. I don't like that idea at all. No, but earlier, okay, so I'm trying to keep track of everything because we got a real lively discussion going on now. Okay, I'll get to the Biden question last. I just want to say that, yeah, the problem with the big tent politics is that, and again, like, it's not exactly I don't think it was the Democrats' choice to make it this way. It's just the way the system works, right? But the problem with big tent politics is that, yeah, you get in this situation where you have conflicting interests. Like, basically the important thing to remember is that all politics is basically trying to get lots of people with their own interests and stuff to do what you want them to do, or to vote for who you want. Someone asked about the Swiss system. On a local level, that would probably work kind of, well. I don't think it would work on like a national level. Electoral college, they should definitely get rid of. It just makes no sense. I don't even think it serves It doesn't serve Republican voters well. It serves their party very well, but I don't believe they are best served. I mean, by the system as it is. Going on. Okay, I'm trying to catch up with us. Okay, Biden's handling of Ukraine. I will say this: pre-invasion, F. Post-invasion, I'll give him a B. Okay, he really did turn around a lot, but you know, here's the thing: like, a lot of people have died since then. You know what I mean? A lot of things have been destroyed. So it's like, yeah, okay, you got your act together, but everything you did before that made this possible. And I'm sorry, like, Biden's policy on Russia and the way he came into it in January in 2021 was just extremely naive. It looked like a sort of another one of these resets, and really, this invasion probably would not have happened had Biden come in with a different strategy. You know, if he had been like, if you'd read these emails I got from Ukrainian Americans from Biden, you know, talking about taking a tough stance and everything like that. And you think after 4 years of, you know, Democrats feeling they got screwed by Russia, and you know, they should have been very bitter about all that, and you know, a lot of the voters are pissed off about that, and then to act the way they did, like one of the first acts they did was grant the sanctions waiver for Nord Stream 2, and Matthias Varnik, who was the CEO of the Nord Stream 2 corporation, basically. So yeah, that was a bad start right there, and then they did that. Then Putin did kind of a trial balloon where he, as we know, like in April, he kind of practiced what he was going to do, and even back then, some people were saying, "Wait, maybe an invasion is going to happen. What are they doing?" And that would have been the time right there to start arming Ukraine the same way they started arming him way too late. Arm him more, and there was even time probably we could get some better systems in there, and we could resolve issues like, you know, airplanes and stuff like that. And but they didn't. You know, what they did is they went to Merkel, and you know, they with Merkel they basically worked out a deal, and Putin would not weaponize the energy. And guess what? He did that like almost immediately. You know, within months. It was just a sucker. You know. And yeah, what David points out there is that the American population, like, this is a bipartisan thing. The American population is very isolationist. And that's just something you have to deal with in politics. And that's what makes a lot of this hard. And again, it just points to the fact that in politics, like, you have to deal with realities on the ground. And yeah, like Robert, I definitely agree. Like, Ukraine is going to win this, but at what price? And who's going to, you know, will we ever see justice for all this? You know, considering like what's happened to these cities, will Russia be made to pay for this stuff? I'll say though, you know, one thing about the American public that a lot of people ignore is that, you know, they were overwhelmingly pro-war when it came to like the Iraq War. And so, and you know, a lot of these people don't want to admit that today. And so, you know, luckily I could say, like, yeah, I was against it. The only reason I wasn't marching against it earlier than I did was because I didn't think they'd do it. To me, the Iraq War seemed like such a stupid idea that, you know, this is kind of, there's a lot of parallels with this Putin thing. There's a lot of parallels, but like, I thought it was so stupid for them to go after Iraq that I thought, no, they're not going to do this. This is like some kind of saber rattling, right? And oh, we all saw what happened, right? So yeah, the fact is that like most Americans were for the Iraq War because they were scared shitless from 9/11, and yeah, and Glenn Greenwald was for the Iraq War, but you're not allowed to hold that against him. It is odious to hold that against him, and yeah. It is odious to try to hold it against Glenn, because Glenn, you know, he was against it, but he says, you know, he had no power. He was not a decision maker, so him being for it had no effect, right? But other people like various pundits or academics, like it's okay to go after them for being for it like forever. Don't we have the gold key? Okay. Oh yeah, old Glenn Greenwald. He is quite the character. Living in his compound there in Brazil, walled compound, and yeah, no, the Iraq War was a bad idea. I would not support it at all. If I knew that it was inevitable, then I would have been one of these people that says like, okay, well at least do it right? Like, make sure that you have the amount of troops and you stabilize things, and make sure you actually like know something about Iraq first. That could help. We already did that, didn't we? Oh, we gotta go over there. Okay. Yeah. So, as I was saying, yeah, the Iraq War hurt our credibility so badly, and the thing about history is that the effects of mistakes like this last for decades sometimes. You know what I mean? Just like how World War I weighed so heavily even into the 1930s, right? And there's even kind of a shorter period. What am I missing up here? I need to hit another button. We hit that button. So you don't have the gold key. I think that's the issue. Not going to be there. I'm trying to think, what am I doing wrong here? Here. Maybe it's in. Oh yeah, it's up there. How the hell do I get in there? And then we go up here. But yeah, and that's the thing about the Iraq War is that a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of the people who today treat everything like it's Iraq, right, and it's very annoying. A lot of those people, the reason they do that is because they sort of came of age politically. They came of age politically with the Iraq War, right? It's like the beginning of their identity, and that's the lens that they see everything through. And it's like, yeah, they probably shouldn't do that, but that's just what people do, right? They go with what they know. It's kind of like how you form your musical taste in your teens usually. And I've seen sometimes, I was a big fan of White Zombie and Rob Zombie, and I listened to the older songs, but like I stopped caring about whether Zombie did like new stuff, you know what I mean? And so one day I look up and I find this guy's released like 3 albums I didn't even know about, right? And so I tried listening to them, and it's not that I'd say like the music was bad, it doesn't resonate, you know what I mean? Because that taste, the affinity was formed in formative years, in teen years, right? And that's kind of what happens, I think, politically, is like when your political awakening, because everyone sort of matures into that at some age. And if the Iraq War is your memory of that, if that's your memory, then what's going to happen? What's going to happen is you're going to judge everything through that lens. You know what I mean? And so, while I hate that people do that because it's really immature and stupid, I mean, comparing everything to Iraq, I understand where it's coming from, and I understand that I was kind of like this myself. There used to be like Iraq War was like this. I'll say like it was like a ace, like in cards or something like that. You just what you have is you just slap down that card that says Iraq War on it, right? And you win. You win the debate. That guy you quoted about this completely unrelated issue, he supported the Iraq War, or something like that, or he wrote an editorial supporting it, and so it's annoying, but it's just like I understand where it comes from. And do we still not have the damn gold key? I'm getting sick of this. Where's that damn key? We got this button here. In order to get the key, we need to drop down on it. Oh, right. Okay, I know what we gotta do. Okay. Now, I think the next level is the boss level, and this boss, I don't think I'll have as much trouble with it as the last one, but it is pretty crazy, and it gets very disorientating. Really confusing. Oh, we got the Earth. See, we're gonna blow up the Earth. You ready? Okay, so Putin, you have nukes, but I can just blow up the Earth. There you go. I love how the message says, you just blew up the Earth. Okay, how we doing? We're good, we got soul mode. Okay, so let's get out of this level and go to one of the craziest boss levels of this game. Oh, shit. You know, the craziest thing about the Endless War, though, you know, the Afghan War, is that, you know, it was something where it might as well have been on Mars. You know, people talk about the, I want to say the military, civilian military divide, and that's the issue, is that in America we don't have this understanding of what it's like to feel the effects of war at home, right? Not like in World War II, where we had stuff like rationing and we had censorship and we even had blackouts in some cities. We are not used to that. We haven't had to deal with that in a long time. And so, you know, what we had was a war where basically we didn't really have to think about it. And I think that many Americans just stopped caring, and you know, a lot of people, they're against it, but they didn't really care, you know. And that's one of my big problems with a lot of the podcasters who use the Iraq War as the answer to everything. My problem with them is like, look, none of you guys are veterans. I don't think you have any people in your family that are in the military. You probably don't actually know anybody who went over there. So, like, you can't really make this like the cornerstone of your politics when it never really affected you. You just lived your life in the States with pretty much no effects from the war, right? That's it. We don't do rationing. I mean, I can tell you, like, when I was in Kyiv in 2015 and 2016, 2017, I was in Ukraine a lot during that time, and I can tell you that when you're in Kyiv, usually you don't really like feel the presence of the war. And that was especially true in November. November, like, nobody was really. It just really felt like everyone was kind of sick of dealing with it, right? But then when I was there in February, you know, like a lot of journalists found that, yeah, people were acting normal, because what are they supposed to do, right? But, you know, there was a sort of silence. People were, like, things just seemed quieter, I would say, than usual. Less joyful, you know. Okay. I hate this system, but oh, we're getting there. Okay. That's the exit. Let's grab a soul. Alright, good. We have soul mode. Okay. Yeah, I think China, well, here's the thing. I think Putin, about China, I think Putin told Xi, he told him what he believed would happen, which is that, you know, they'll collapse in 48 hours and this will be a small thing. And then, of course, it didn't end up that way. And like I said, China's not really 100% on board with all this. And that's something... Oh, do we have another level before the boss level? Okay. No, that's... Oh, no, we are... This is the boss level. Okay. Okay, yeah. Get ready. Get ready for a crazy boss level. Probably not going to beat this guy on the first time. The summoned ones await. Yeah, check this out. Look at this. Twin Terror. I don't know why, but... Okay, I have, like, what they call, what is it, thalassophobia or something? I figured this out. Like, basically, I don't like the idea of being underwater with big living things. That's why, like, a game like, you'll never see me playing something like Subnautica, because it bothers me. You know what I mean? I don't know why. It's hard to explain, but it's just something that is like disturbing on some level, and it's something I can't describe, especially just big things coming at you, you know. And this kind of it triggers that just a bit. It's hard to explain, but there is this like just being in the water, because I mean we're humans, we're not used to being in water. Oh wow, they went down a lot faster than I thought. Yes, I have. So yeah, thalassophobia. Yeah, I do have Ukrainian heritage. Actually, I also have Russian and Polish. But I have like distant relatives who I do not actually know in Ukraine. It's from a how do you say, from DNA test. I was curious. I thought, oh, why not? And so that's what I found. And it's like, but I was raised in a very waspified, mostly Irish American family on my mother's side. So I kind of had to. So like my connection to Ukraine really comes from just like going there and living there and stuff like that. Oh, glad to see someone else has thalassophobia, so someone knows what it's like. Yeah, it's weird. Like it's you like just looking at pictures from the ocean, especially if there's a goddamn whale in it. Let me tell you about whales. If you have thalassophobia, whales, especially humpback whales, are extremely disturbing. Okay, and you say, oh, they don't hurt you, they just eat plankton. I don't care. It's an animal that's like the size of a bus, and you're just floating there in the ocean, minding your own business, and you're just surrounded by nothingness, and you look down and it's just darkness, and it's darkness everywhere, and then a living thing the size of a bus just like rolls up, and it's just like squeaky whatever, and sorry, that just like disturbs me. Orcas, not quite as bad, but I hate that episode. I want to find out, what do we, what's this one? I think we beat this. Give me a ping, Vasily. One ping only, please. Yeah, sea turtles, no problem. Sea turtles are alright. But, okay, so I'm trying to avoid a certain episode. I'm afraid it might be the last one we... Oh, no, wait, there's another one we can go to. Nah, seahorses are cool. Like, I'm cool with a lot of sea animals. Friendly with sea life, like Aquaman, but whales? Humpback whales, not all whales. And, yes, yeah, pictures of, like, trenches and stuff like that in the ocean. It's the nothingness. It's the void, you know? Oh, yeah, prehistoric creatures. Yeah, they got a lot of, like, big, horrible creatures in the past. I can't remember any of the names off the top of my head. But they had the megalodon or whatever. Is like that giant shark. Like, who needs that, right? Like... Oh, yeah, and the worst jellyfish. They got those ones in Australia that just, like, they're not just painful, but, like, they mess with your mind. Yeah, no, I do eat seafood. A person asking that, I tend to like fried seafood, or I like it in like a lot of Asian dishes. Like things like scallops. Scallops are great. Octopus, yeah, that's all good. Yeah, it's bad when the fish have armor too, because then you need armor-piercing rounds. You know. Okay, we did that. By the way, so yeah, in case you don't know, there is a prequel for a Medieval that's supposed to be released soon. Probably going to be in Ukraine by then, so I'm a bit concerned about that. But yeah, so if I could just find, I don't want to go to Sacred Path. I hate that level. The first level of it is just so dull and annoying. Because if there's one legit complaint about a Medieval, and you'll see, like, G-Man Lives points this out, is that a lot of times you're forced to walk on, like, perilous catwalks and stuff like that while fighting enemies that can knock you off of it. And as you can see in this game, like, most of your weapons launch projectiles. They do not they're not like hit scan. Okay, Master Equinox. But I think Demand Sentinels. Okay, we want to go to the. I want to go to the sun level. Okay, we already went there. There's a like the solar temple level or something like that. That's what I'm looking for. Sacred Path. I don't want to go to Sacred Path. Can we read this? I'll read the codex in the menu. Thank you. Yeah, because there's like the sun level. Huh? We did the forges. Good Lord. So, there's a story I got to tell from my, this is just crazy. I got to tell this from my last trip to Ukraine. This happened, this is like a few days before they said, like, the invasion is ready, right? I had gone out with some friends, and we met some random American dude there, and we started talking about, I guess this guy is a writer, and he's actually a published writer, and we started talking about, damn it. I mean, if I have to, I'll go to Sacred Path level, but Jesus, I don't want to. But yeah, so we're talking to this guy, he's a writer, and we started talking about horror in terms of, like, novels, right, literature. And I was talking about how my favorite type of horror is stuff that is disturbing and not necessarily, not gory, but and we brought up, I brought up like House of Leaves, and I'm not going to say that I immensely enjoyed House of Leaves, but it was interesting. The concept was interesting, but House of Leaves has a concept in it that I find very intriguing, which is the idea of a structure that doesn't conform to physics. And basically, you are, it can reconfigure itself at random. And here's where I want to go. Okay, sorry about that. So this was, I brought up another example of this type of horror, which is the game Control. If you play Control, I played that recently, and I was quite impressed by it. It was very interesting. But it has that kind of element that I like, which is just like a building that has a mind of its own. Objects just, I mean, obviously it's clearly based. It's clearly based on, what's it called? SCP, with the items of power and stuff like that. And I said, yeah, it's just my favorite genre. The idea that you could like be in a structure and it just reconfigures itself, and it's disturbing to me to suddenly find yourself trapped because the building has a mind of its own, right? And then what happened is, this is the dumbest thing. So I go back to my apartment building, and I was walking a friend, like he went to get a cab, and then I walked back to my apartment building, and I get in the lift. The lobby is the lobby that I've been walking through the whole time. I get in the lift, and I hit the 8th floor because that's where my apartment is. And the elevator stops. The lift stops, and I find that it says, 5, because the way this building was configured where my apartment was, you would hit 8, and the apartment door is literally in front of your face, right? So here, I find myself on the 5th floor. And I'm on the 5th floor, and this is not my apartment in front of my face. And I realize it seems to me that the elevator was having a malfunction or something. And I remember when I first arrived, I actually had to walk all the way up to the 8th floor because the elevator was not working at that time, right? So I thought, okay, it stopped early. So I go and I press 8. Well, because that's the floor, it just opened, the door opens again, right? So finally I'm like, okay, this is weird, but it's probably, it's probably on 4 or 5, and I'll just walk the remaining 3 floors to get to the 8th floor. And I go and I turn, and there is a metal gate stopping me from going any higher. Now I start to get really freaked out, because I'm like, how is this happening, right? So I go downstairs and I'm in the lobby. And I'm looking at the elevator and everything, and I'm like, this is not right. What's going on? And I walk out of the front door. The lobby looks the same as it always was, right? And I walk out the front door, and I realize something. This apartment building actually has two entrances. One of them's kind of not noticeable, or I'll say less noticeable at night, right? And I had walked in the wrong entrance. And when I got in my proper entrance, the lobby and everything, I realized something about the lift. There's a historic picture of Hrshatik Avenue on it, and in my lift, like the Hrshatik picture was on the left side of the lift, and in that other one it was on the right side, and I just didn't pay attention because I just know, like, oh, the picture's there, I know the picture's there, that's all that matters. And the lobby looks almost the same, right? But like it was a different building with like different floors, so that was like right after talking about how disturbing it is that a structure that changes on you, it like seems to be happening, right? And all while we're expecting this horrendous Russian invasion that's going to completely knock out the power and internet and cell, right? Okay, I got to go back a little bit. Let's see what else. God, there's so many things. No, I do not generally watch anime. Someone asked that. From time to time, people recommend anime to me, and I will say, is it weird? And they will usually say, no, it's not weird, I promise. And then they'll sort of relent and be like, okay, there's a little weirdness in it. Now, I'm not going to say that I never enjoyed any animes out there. I thought Attack on Titan, I know there's some issues with that, but I found Attack on Titan to be at least interesting. I only saw the first season, but it was very interesting world design and everything, and so I watched the first season of that. I kind of binge watched that because I was ill at the time and had nothing to do but lay in bed. What else? I've watched a little bit of Cowboy Bebop, and I'll say that is pretty fun. What else? A long time ago, I think one of the first examples of somebody recommending an anime to me, swearing that it was not weird, it was Ninja Scroll. And even that I did find kind of interesting. It was definitely weird, though. There's a lot of weird shit in it, I'm sorry. But it was interesting. I like the animes that kind of like try to set themselves in, like Japanese history. I found that was kind of interesting. And Cowboy Bebop was enjoyable. I like the world building in that. I haven't seen like many episodes. I think I've only seen about 4 episodes of it. What else? I'm trying to think of. I did see Spirited Away. I guess you have to see that. Animatrix. I did see a lot of that. It technically counts, I think. Counts as anime. But yeah, in general, it's just. I think here's my problem with a lot of anime is I tend to like watching it with subtitles, but I feel like I think this is just like a different acting culture or something. I feel like in Japan there seems to be almost like no concept of like overacting or hamming it up. You know what I mean? Like you know this if you watch like Attack on Titan, and what's his name? Eren Yeager, the main character. Like he is often just going on these tirades where he's just like screaming and everything. And I think there is an episode where he goes on one of these tirades and like a commander or something walks up and just like punches him and knocks him out or something because he's so annoying. I just want to say like, thank you, arigatou gozaimasu. Because when characters go into these like monologues where they're just like screaming and everything like that, it gets really annoying. It's just maybe it's not as bad when you do it in English, or maybe it's cringier when you have it dubbed in English. I don't know. I think maybe it probably sound cringier dubbing that in English, because when it's in Japanese, at least like it's authentic. It's what they would do. I usually like anything foreign. I tend to prefer subtitled because I like to hear the language. I usually end up picking up words if it's a language that I've studied in the past. Always a good way to increase your vocabulary. think the last foreign thing I was watching was, and I think in this case I was watching the dub, is Babylon Berlin. It's a bit of a convoluted series with a lot of stuff going on, and I kind of took a break from it and couldn't really get back into it. But it's like Berlin in 1929, and there's like Soviet spies there, and there's the army, the so-called Black Reichswehr, who are trying to rearm, and they're working with the Soviets to rearm, which is a fairly historically accurate thing. Okay. Yeah, so it is a thing. I have heard something about Russian dub of Gurren Lagann. I will look that up. But no, I was saying about the acting thing. I read a long time ago a book. The author was talking about going to a kabuki play, and he said that like a lot of the actors are just like screaming and whining, and it's the style. It's what they're expected to do, and I can appreciate that on some level. Yeah, and anime does have a lot of tropes, and I get one thing that makes me uneasy with anime is the treatment of women. Sometimes there are a lot of highly questionable things that end up in anime, and sometimes they pop up unexpectedly. Don't we have the gold key already? Let's see. Where the hell was I? I can't even remember. Let's give me the key. Okay, so let's see. Seems to be a philosophical discussion going on here, but I will get lost. I don't know about this Naruto thing apart from the so-called Naruto run, but I will say there are much worse things in the portrayal of women in anime than anything, I think. I thought that was more of like a kid's show. If I'm wrong, I apologize. If Naruto is actually a very gritty adult show, I do apologize. But yeah, just anytime I hear it now, anytime I hear Naruto run, I think of there's a parody of a Sabaton song. The Sabaton song, "The Fields of Verdun," I believe, and basically it's called Area 51, and it's about that bizarre Area 51 raid. I was kind of transitioning between countries at the time, so I don't remember what actually happened, but apparently like a bunch of people their idea was like they want to see Area 51, and their idea was like, well, if we all just kind of rush the gate, then like they can't kill all of us. Now, I don't remember what actually happened. I don't know if they just didn't do it, or if they maybe they're all dead and buried in the desert. I don't know. I didn't really follow up on that. But apparently, like some of the people who were going to do this were planning to do the quote-unquote Naruto run at the gates of Area 51. Those people probably did get shot by the Air Force security team. And because it's Area 51, we'll probably never find their graves. But do look that up. Area 51 Sabaton parody. So people did get arrested, huh? Okay. Okay. Like, well, I guess they just pulled the guns on him, said hands up, and detained him, or what? That's interesting. My great grandfather was in the British Army, and he fought in the Middle East. He fought in Gallipoli, either Gallipoli or Suvla Bay, but he also was in basically the Middle Eastern theater of World War I. And so he fought the Ottoman Empire the whole time. He was in Palestine, Syria. I think he was in Syria. And then the Gallipoli campaign, so British Army, and I always find that interesting because like in World War One, the people remember in the West we always think of France usually, right? France and Flanders, and I mean it's more of a British thing, but that's what it is. It's always France and the field of Flanders and stuff like that, Belgium, and we ignore the. There's some people focus on the Eastern Front, but most people totally ignore the whole Middle Eastern theater, and I think that's one of the most interesting theaters. Because I mean, look, Germany was founded as a country, an empire, in 1871. It was relatively new, you could say, whereas the Ottoman Empire went back to the Middle Ages, right? I mean, Austria also, has a long legacy, you know what I mean? And then, but what Germany has the Hohenzollern dynasty. Come on. If you want a good book on the formation of Russia, Serhiy Plokhy, he's a Ukrainian historian, but he also just does like Soviet and Russian history. And what I like is that he will include the Ukrainian perspectives, but also, talk about what do you call it? The history of Russia, right? And so recently, someone was talking about Putin's view about the identity of Russia, the trinity sort of Malorossiya, which is what they call Ukraine, and Belarusia, and Great Russia, right? The Muscovites. And if you want to learn more about the formation of that identity and how it was used as an imperialist prop, basically, you want to check out Lost Kingdom by Serhiy Plokhy. That's Plokhy. And it's very accessible, but it's a good comprehensive study of like how Muscovy sort of tried to connect itself to Rus, and how identity and these three identities sort of interacted. So it's a really good book to pick up, and it is sold in hard copies in Barnes and Noble, for example. About New Zealand, by the way, when I went to I don't know if I ever mentioned this, I was at the Gallipoli battlefield. I took the tour. You have to go on a guided tour. I was I was in the Gallipoli battlefield in Turkey, and a lot of the tourists who come there are Kiwis and Anzacs, basically Australians and Kiwis. And I was they said I was the only American on the tour, and then he asked, the Turkish guide asked how many people had relatives that fought there, and he was surprised I raised my hand. I said, well, it's British Army. He was again great grandfather, but we did visit we visited the Turkish and Anzac cemeteries. We visited Anzac Cove. We visited the what they called I think it was the neck. This area is like the size of a tennis court where like 150 guys died within seconds. We visited the Turkish and Australian Anzac trenches. But one interesting story is that you can find the grave of the youngest soldier to fight in the Gallipoli campaign, and he was a New Zealander who was 14, somehow managed to lie about his age convincingly enough, and died there. And so and you'll see it's he's the youngest, but you'll see a lot of people there. You see very very young people, usually like 16, 17, had an easier time joining up. But yeah, it is. It's interesting because the whole area is it's so beautiful. The sea there is like amazing, and it's just to think that this place was just a wash in blood and disease and everything like that is just amazing. You know what I mean? And you're in this cemetery where trees have been planted in honor of the people who died there. It's quite sobering, but like I said, it looks like a paradise. The sea is so clear. There's one beach where you can actually see the sunken hulk of one of the landing ships. You can see it right through the water. So yeah, if you ever want to go there, if you're in Turkey, you take a bus. They have very nice buses in Turkey. And you take a bus down to Çanakkale, and you need to organize a tour there. And there are a lot of tours there because from there, there's another tour you can take, which is the tour of the archaeological site of Troy. Now, one of the interesting things about this, if you ever saw the movie Troy, the one with Brad Pitt, the Trojan horse that they used in that movie was donated to the city of Çanakkale. And you'll see it. It's I took a picture of it. It's like in one of the squares on this one main road, and it's apparently the same horse, as far as I know. So yeah, it's a little trivia there about Çanakkale. Nice little town, and what they did is it's on like one side of the Dardanelles. When you take the tour, you get on a boat and you go across the Dardanelles to the other side, and yeah, so it wasn't particularly expensive or anything like that. The only regret I have is that when I was there, the museum, they usually take you to a small museum there to start, and it was not open at the time that I went there. Some kind of renovations or something like that. So missed out on the museum. One day I may head back there. But yeah, it's an interesting chapter of the war. Definitely a huge cock up for Mr. Churchill. In fact, the Turkish tour guide, he said, Churchill famously said something like, "I will eat breakfast and at the Hellespont or in the Dardanelles, and I will." Trying to remember, I should remember the names of these places, and I feel horrible that I don't. It says like I'll eat lunch here, and I'll eat dinner in Istanbul, right? And this was the initial plan, where the idea was to just sail ships right up the Dardanelles, right? And they never really counted on the idea that the Turks would obviously mine the straits, right? And so obviously that plan didn't work out. And what the Turkish tour guide said, he said he would have his dinner in Istanbul, and he says, now there's one problem. We did not invite him. If we are very hospitable people, if he had asked for permission, we would have, invited him to dinner in Istanbul, but he did not, and that's why it went wrong. All right, well, it's kind of getting late, but we'll see if we can get to the end of this stage. Oh, we're low on mana for this. Water release number 2. Yeah, I also I did visit China back in 2011. Got a chance to see what do you call it? The wall. We went to Badaling to see the wall, and went to Beijing and Shanghai, and that was quite interesting. Shanghai is quite interesting because of the mixture of like European and Asian, and then like super modern architecture all in one city. Yeah, that was generally a very interesting trip, because that's really the furthest I've been to. That's the furthest I've been in East Asia. I haven't really spent much time in what we traditionally think of as Asia. There's the Asian part of Turkey, but most people don't think of it that way. So yeah, that was back in 2011. I remember going to a bar. It was on Western New Year's, and there was a bar where like they had a cover singer doing a lot of like Western songs, and they did a great rendition of Tina Turner's "Simply the Best." Very, very talented singer. Okay. Any more guided weapons? Yeah, Chinese definitely use Mausers, but they use Czech machine guns, ZB-26. which was an inspiration for the Bren, of course. One of those top-loading, you know, light machine guns. Do we have a key? No, we don't have a key. Save. On the water. We got the water on. Not a well-hidden secret. There actually are tons of secrets in this game, and I tend to miss most of them. I am not, you know, one thing about what they call the boomer shooters is that they are often known for their secrets. And I am not a great secret, hunter. Usually, like I said, I'm usually good at shareware episodes. When I'm playing Blood, you see that I will get a lot of secrets, at least in a shareware episode. Like I memorize that shit. But I don't get splash. There's no splash damage on me, so I can just do that. Come on, hit him. There we go. Yeah, this guy, when they hit you, you get burned by that spear that sticks in you. Okay. Yeah, but as I was saying, like, you know, a lot of these games like Dusk and stuff like that, they're full of secrets because that's the way, you know, these older games were. Before Half-Life kind of ruined it. I mean, stuff like Half-Life and Call of Duty games and Halo and everything sort of ruined ruined secrets, you know what I mean? I mean, Half-Life had a few good secrets. You know, usually it's just like you get a weapon earlier than you normally would. Maybe you get a little bit more ammo. Yeah, one interesting thing about, you're talking about nationalist Chinese, I always thought their uniforms were interesting, not just because of like the mix of gear they had, but that their color for many of their troops was blue, sort of a light blue uniform. And I just always found that interesting because, you know, certain countries in World War II, had unusual uniform colors. You know, Germany with the Feldgrau and also the, you know, they actually had a kind of color of green, you know, for the top. That was kind of unusual, you know, because everyone else wears like khaki or some kind of brown, right? And but you had, you know, the Italians had that sort of like gray greenish uniforms, and then you got the nationalist Chinese with the, or actually the Chinese communists when they were in a coalition with them, I think it was called the New Fourth Army or Fourth Route Army or something like that. That was a communist unit, but they would wear the nationalist like blue uniform. So I just always find that interesting because, of course, you know, the shift is towards earth tones because they blend in, right? I mean, like at the beginning of the First World War, for example, you had countries that had flashy, colorful uniforms. Yeah, I think 8th Route Army. I'm thinking of the New Fourth Army. I think the 8th Route Army was formed later. Maybe that was reformed from the. Let's see. May have been reformed from the, what do you call it? The New Fourth Army. I don't know. I used to have, you know, I used to have a ton of Osprey books. I love Osprey books, and I had a digital archive of like hundreds of them, and I still do. I have it on an external hard drive somewhere. And so, you know, when I was bored, I'd just be like, oh, here's something new I can read about. I think I hit like all of those. Yeah, like, you know, here's something new I can read about the you know, Chinese Civil War armies, or, you know, Chinese armies of the Second Sino-Japanese War, or something like that. And yeah, because sometimes, you know, I have my historical interest in everything, but sometimes you just need to kind of get outside of your you know, your main interest and just read something about a conflict that you don't really, you know, or a conflict or an army or whatever that you don't normally read about. And so That was the case with that. Again, we're going to take a look at some beautiful level design here when we no longer have these threats, because I want to point them out. So, I mean, check out this ocean. You know, like, I'd probably die if I jump into it, but I mean, look at that. This is beautiful. We got the tower over there. We got the distant mountains, but that ocean. Yeah, I actually, I found a new book I'm in the middle of right now, totally by accident. It's exactly the type of thing that I was looking for to complete my second Baraboo video, because it's about John Boyd, you know, the guy behind the OODA loop, and basically some problems with his theories, especially the theory of maneuver warfare as presented by Boyd and what's the other guy, the nutcase Bill Lind, and the reformers, as they're called, the reformers at the Pentagon, right? And it's exactly the type of thing I was looking for, because I want to talk about the way these former Wehrmacht generals, the way their memoirs had this negative influence on the U.S. Army and the U.S. military later. Because I had an article I want to say it's from a Marine Corps publication, but it was talking about how some people, you know, this maneuver warfare thing is getting out of hand, and it's getting to a point where you can't read an Army publication without a German dictionary, because it's full of terms like Auftragstaktik and Bewegungskrieg and what's the other one, Schwerpunkt, and all this stuff like that. And so, you know, there's really some irritation with all that. And yeah, Lind is quite the character. And Lind was just kind of like a fanboy of Boyd, basically. They all lined up behind this former fighter pilot Boyd. Laserpig, by the way, again, great channel. Laserpig has done a lot of videos about the so-called reformers. They're extremely informative. I found them amazingly informative because, you know, I was taken in by movies like the Pentagon Wars. You know, even as a veteran, I think military people are even more susceptible to believing that crap because of that. You know, first of all, you know all the flaws in your equipment, and second, you know, obviously you are upset by the idea that your equipment might not be the best, that, you know, it might not save your life or might not work right in a certain situation. And so the story, if you've ever seen Pentagon Wars, the story is very compelling, and even especially if you were ever in the military. But it's basically all bullshit. And Laserpig has a whole video on that debunks all that. And it's extremely informative. And so I cannot recommend that enough. Oh, holy shit. He closed the distance fast, didn't he? Ow, burned myself. Okay. Clear out the room a little bit. I think we'll use something heavier on this guy down here. Eat it. Okay. Alright, well anyway, like I said, I found that book by accident. It was just recommended to me. Recommended to me because I was in the middle of B.A. Friedman's On Tactics, and I guess that's why it recommended it. And I put down on Tactics to focus on this, you know, with all respect to Friedman, but I was looking for a book like this for a long time to sort of help me articulate what I want to put in this video. Get burned. We need health. We need health. There's health. But yeah, it's funny how sometimes, you know, you just get lucky like that, you know. Alright, well, probably going to go to the end of this level and then call it a night. I think it's always good when the audio works. I just wish that we could figure out a consistent explanation for the audio problems, because you know, obviously I'm gonna run out of a medieval to play, right? And then I don't want to be limited in what games I can play on here, you know. It would be nice. I don't mind playing Insurgency again. That seems to work, but we got to fix the audio permanently. You know what I mean? We need a proper audio in any game. Now, hopefully, the thing that did it maybe is I turned off my other speakers. I've been using phones all this time. I use phones on the other one, but the sound bar still had Bluetooth on. My streaming software is NVIDIA Shadowplay. That might be part of the problem. Yeah, and that's the thing is, you know, like you said there, I think it could have something to do with the, you know, the game sound. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm competent enough to hook up a multi-person stream. I might try it sometime. Let's see. Well, this uses Unreal 4? Huh. Okay. That's something to keep in mind, though. It could have something to do with it. Because I'm starting to think it's like a game-specific thing, where it has to do with how the sound is, you know, rendered or something. But, you know, here's the thing. Okay, Brothers in Arms is Unreal 3 engine. So, you know, that's something to consider, too. That guy just burned himself to death? Interesting. These guys seem to be confused. I have a planet. Okay. Can I get up there? No. Why do we even come here? What is here? Oh, okay, key. Key is always good. Yeah, these guys can reflect. They can reflect. So my shots there, as you can see. Okay. Gotta use our newfound key for something. If I can make that jump. Can't make that jump. It's like you spend a lot of time trying to find a key, and then you have to remember where the door that key opens is. Probably not here. Oh, hello. This is probably a bit of overkill. I thought there was another one behind me when I walked there, so I was a bit worried about that. It has a key on it, but what am I supposed to do with it? Can't go there. Okay, that's wasted soul mode. Okay, well this... Yeah, what we gotta do is we gotta raise the water level in here. There was a place that said flood control earlier. Probably my key will hit that switch and open it. I wonder if I could get up there, though. That would have been good. Probably not. Got the key here. And some ammo there I'm interested in, but not just yet. What is the... let me up there. Okay. We need to get higher. Ah, there we go. Yeah. That's what I was looking for. Now we can probably get that ammo before... Oh, are you shitting me? What was that guy even doing underwater? Okay. That guy's probably going to stay in that tunnel. Yeah, a lot of people complain about that on NVIDIA forums, but the thing is, their fixes are often sort of, you know, like, either I've tried them and they don't work, or it's just something that just doesn't seem like it would actually work, you know what I mean? Okay. And, oh, holy shit, okay. Luckily we got plenty of blue mana, because I don't use blue mana weapons much. Circle strafing, most important skill. Look at that. Apparently, if you go to device and disable signal enhancement. No, I see. That's the thing. I've gone through a lot of these things, and I have done that, and it's still an issue. So 98. Okay, didn't get everybody. We'll work it out eventually. I think it has something to do with my speakers being active. Like the volume's down and Bluetooth is connected to my headset, but I think because the speakers, if they are on, it's like two output devices that it's beaming to or something like that. I'm just winging it at this point. All right, well, now I like this because there's a little bit of continuity here. You see, we were going towards that tower, and now we are at that tower. Love that level continuity. All right, anyway, I got a call tonight. Thanks to people who donated. I think there's still time to donate there. Check out my Patreon to support me. I am tentatively trying to get back to Ukraine and do whatever I can, but till then I'll try to maintain the streams, and I'll be on Twitter and just kind of keep you updated. I could use all the support you can provide through Patreon, but also Ukraine needs your support as well, so just one way or the other, right? Just choose your own adventure. So that will be it for now. At least we know one game where the sound will definitely work right, and I hope that was informative. Yeah, and everyone else have a good upcoming week.